findings are especially concerning, considering that asthma disproportionately affects Black and brown communities, like whole communities of people.
The department has not proposed to ban gas stoves.
The department did not propose a ban of gas stoves, but the department is actually going to regulate the fact that most gas stoves on the market would no longer be able to be sold. They won't be allowed to be sold. Only 4%. Do you agree with that, Mr. Delasky?
No, I've seen this movie before. Where
No, Mr. Delasky, this is not a movie. This is reality.
The claim
because
is that...
Mr. Delasky, this is reality. Because if you're going to tell, let me bring it to you this way. If you're going to tell my mom that she can't have a gas stove anymore and she can only buy an electric stove, but there's a gas hookup in the kitchen and now the kitchen has to be remodeled, and we were renters, we were not owners, which means the landlord had to go and redo that. Do you know what that's going to do to her livelihood? What happens if the landlord says, man, I got to go through these massive retrofits, I'm not paying for that? It falls on the back of the renter, which is what does happen. Does that sound like a movie to you?
It's a whole bunch of stuff that comes along with this. Retrofit your stove or whatever, or don't use this product no more because it's dangerous. It's going to kill you. It's going to cause asthma in your family. And we're going to make these industries that manufacturers in the U.S. change their whole manufacturing plan up so they could sell gas stoves, or maybe just get rid of the product line altogether. What do you think that does with jobs? I mean, do you see the pile of stuff just because this one check mark they're trying to put off? And this is liberal policies. They're trying to check this bill off for this new green energy bill. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Chawanne Burns. In this video, we're going to talk about gas stoves being racist. Gas stoves are targeting Black people. This is according to Cori. So we're going to take a look at the Senate bill that they're proposing to eliminate gas stoves within the U.S. And also I found some research, a study that was done, and we're going to compare how much emissions from gas stoves to cars. Okay, we'll make that comparison. We'll see which one is the most harmful. I think the liberal left, if they're so concerned about the well-beings and the health of the citizens of the United States, there are many other things that are a danger to society. Cori Bush, in her argument, saying how they should push this bill forward, she mentioned about, Black people are 10 times more likely to have asthma or something like that. She quoted all these numbers. And she's saying, we need to initiate this because it's causing asthma within the Black community. But my only thing, and I want you guys to think about this, if this is a problem with the human race, and this is if you believe about global warming or not, if there's a real problem with the human race, why are you pushing puberty blockers to kids that potentially sterilize kids, that in turn they cannot have kids, boys and girls? And also, why are you so gun-ho on pro-choice? If this particular gas bill, we're saying gas bills is killing the environment and it will eventually kill off the human race. You have other stuff that you promote that kills off the human race. So please think about that, people, when we're playing this video.
I think about my colleague says he likes gas stoves. I like gas stoves. We all like gas stoves. Seatbelts work too because there are standards put in place to keep people safe. This is a standard. We're talking about keeping people safe, and I like people to be alive, not necessarily what looks like a way to weaponize or to politicize an appliance. Let's keep people safe. So,
what the hell is she talking about? Weaponize and politicize an appliance? We're talking about a gas stove. I don't think they're so concerned about that. I think it's all something for somebody to be afraid of, or just to have Oh, look at that. Another thing that affects black people more than white people. I think it's a bunch of BS, quite frankly. And quite frankly, I think for Cori Bush, for her to be a black woman, pandering this nonsense and act like she's standing up for a cause. No, you got way more things that kill all black people and causing people health crisis than a gas stove. How about we change the type of foods that we're eating? How about that? Diabetes is the number one killer. Heart disease is the number one killer in the black community.
Scientific research has proven there is a direct connection between gas stoves and, let's just take childhood asthma, finding that gas stoves are linked to 1 in 8 childhood asthma cases.
This is incorrect, you guys. My job, I got a background in chemical engineering. For 6 or 7 years, I practiced as an environmental engineer. I calculated emissions. And because of that job, I was privy to a lot of information from the EPA. Actually, emissions, particulate matters from steel plants and other type of factories, causes asthma in children. That's the main reason for asthma.
These findings are especially concerning, considering that asthma disproportionately affects Black and brown communities, like whole communities of people, humans. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 13.4% of Black children have asthma, while only 7.8% of white children have asthma. New mothers heating up bottles or making pancakes could be poisoning their children without their knowledge.
I wish you'd stop making shit up, because if you're a new mother and you're not heating up your bottle in the on the stove, and if you are, okay, say for instance I heat my bottle up on the stove. Okay, I have a gas stove, but other people might have an electric stove. But there's a such thing called bottle warmers. This is not the olden days. People don't heat up their bottles. They don't wait till water heats up and put the bottle in there, even though it's safer. People use the microwave. It's radioactive rays in the microwave. Why ain't they? Hey, for the longest time they were saying microwaves cause brain cancer. You don't see no legislation on that. Get rid of all the microwaves. No, they're not, because they're not going to legislate that crazy stuff. They want to attack this new green bill, whatever, and get rid of everything that's gas, a natural resource, and strain. But you don't give us an alternative. Now you want to strain the power grid. Where does power come from? Can anybody tell me that? We don't got no windmill plants being built. I worked at a coal-fired power plant. And most of the energy or electric energy that's produced, a coal-fired power plant in the U.S. It's coal. Are we understanding?
We want to keep them safe. This evidence linking gas stove emissions to negative health outcomes, it continues to grow. Gas stoves rely on natural gas or methane as a fuel source, which affects both the climate, both as fossil fuel source and as a greenhouse gas itself. So
she don't know what she reading either. You could see how she paused. You know, she doesn't know what she's reading.
Mr. Delasky, how does using natural gas as a fuel source contribute to the climate crisis?
Burning natural gas in our homes and in our power plants is a significant contributor to climate change emissions, and it's also a significant contributor to air quality challenges and problems indoors and outdoors. And making our stoves more efficient would reduce combustion and reduce the emissions coming from our stoves.
Okay, Mr. Delasky, would improving the efficiency of gas stoves, would that help reduce the impact on the climate crisis?
Absolutely. Improving the efficiency of our gas stoves would help.
I wholeheartedly agree. A 2022 study by Stanford scientists found that annual methane emissions from all gas stoves in the United States, in those homes, have a climate impact comparable to the annual carbon dioxide emissions of 500,000 cars, with more than 3/4 of methane emissions originating while the gas stoves were not even in use. So, Mr. Delasky, what actions can manufacturers, can consumers, and regulators take to prevent the vast amounts of methane leakage from gas stoves?
One of the steps that we can take is for the Department of Energy to set the first ever efficiency standards for gas stoves. We now, for the first time, have a way of measuring relative efficiency and to ask manufacturers to make the investments to make their gas stoves that they sell more energy efficient, reducing their emissions.
One more question for you. What pollutants do gas stoves emit that are so harmful to human respiratory systems?
I'm not an expert in the various emissions that are coming out of gas stoves. I would point you to comments filed by the American Lung Association, as well as a number of nurses organizations and other public health advocates to the Department of Energy in the gas stove docket, where they lay out some of the problems for indoor air quality and for ambient air quality. They're the experts, and I point you to that American Lung Association. They support the gas stove standard and are vocally supporting it.
Well, I'll just add, like, nitrogen dioxide, which is known to irritate the human respiratory system. And as a nurse, I've seen it all too often, the effects. Further research we know is warranted. In the meantime, experts suggest several actions businesses and families can take to reduce the health risks associated with gas stoves. These include opening a window, using an exhaust hood, installing carbon monoxide detectors, and making the transition to electric stoves. Everyone should have the necessary information about their household goods to determine what is best for them, particularly their stoves. Thank you, and I yield back.
Open up the windows, use vent. That's like common knowledge. Hey, use vent, open up the window. My oldest child has asthma. I attribute it because I worked at the not a fossil fuel plant. When I was pregnant, I was working in a petroleum plant, and he has asthma. My second son don't have asthma, but we was in the same environment. So what was so different about him than my second son? The only problem about this, you're trying to say, okay, we got to retrofit these gas stoves. Where's the money coming from? Is the government going to subsidize this? You're saying this affects the Black and brown community more prevalent than the white community. If you're so concerned about the Black and brown community, are you going to give them a free electric stove? I'm trying to see where we're coming. Are you going to give them a free electric stove? Apartment owners, are you going to subsidize them to retrofit these gas stoves? And for some reason, I think if you're living in an apartment, it's going to be electric anyway because they want to pass it back to the customer. Now, this is like a rebuttal to Cori's response. And he point out the person that's the people that's pushing this bill, they didn't even have the audacity. They didn't even show up for the hearing.
Thank you, Chairman. First and foremost, I find it to just be highly disrespectful that the Department of Energy was asked to be here. They're not here. They don't want to answer questions about their own rule, which is going to impact the bottom line and the pocketbook of every American, especially those who own gas stoves currently. And, you know, I just find that to just be ridiculous. They must be taking a cue from the president, who doesn't even want to answer questions, doesn't do press conferences, and just is nowhere to be found. I find that to just really be laughable, to be honest. Secondarily, This whole gas stoves thing makes no sense. Mr. Stein, I think you were saying in your testimony that roughly only 4% of the current product in the gas stoves market would actually even comply with the EPA's rule. So if you are a homeowner or even a renter and there are gas hookups into the kitchen, what are they supposed to do? Are they now supposed to retrofit their kitchen for an electrical outlet? Because it's not a normal outlet with electric stoves. It is a specially designed outlet for the electric stove in the kitchen. So I would ask the Department of Energy, if they were actually here, what do you expect the American people to do with respect to their kitchen? Are they gonna now retrofit their kitchen to allow for an electric hookup to go in there when the house wasn't designed for that? Mr. Delaski, what's the cost on that? Is that in your research? No, it doesn't. I'm not even asking you a question because this is ridiculous. This is not a movie. This is people's.
He said, this is not a movie. This is ridiculous.
Lives. And we have the Department of Energy who doesn't even have the guts, the courage to come in here and answer questions about their proposed rule. They'd rather hide in their building down the street than come in here and talk to the American people, talk to the people's representatives. I mean, we do have to fund the Department of Energy. That's coming up in a couple of months. If you can't even come in here and answer questions, why would we fund you? And that's serious. I'm not even joking around because this thing is stupid. For Black and brown communities.
Representative Donalds, he said this is stupid. I mean, if you really think about it, it's kind of ludicrous, you know. You're saying you're doing this protection of people. You're saying that you're doing this for Black and brown communities because we're highly impacted by the stoves. We're highly impacted by the stoves. I would like to see how many Black and brown communities in apartments have gas stoves. I don't think none of them. Like I said, stoves are more expensive to have. So it's not really impacting it's not really impacting the Black and brown community as they're saying it is. They're just trying to check something off the box. Oh, since President Biden is running for president again, oh, we eliminated emissions by retrofitting these gas stoves. And we put a whole bunch of people out of business because they got to retrofit these stoves. Or they can't sell. They got a bunch of stuff that's manufactured or they can't sell. You know, but you're saying this is for the Black and brown community because the Black and brown community is mostly affected by this.
The cost of actually having to go out and buy a new appliance or to retrofit your kitchen is far more dangerous to your bottom line and to your pocketbook. I'm being honest, far more dangerous. I noticed in the ranking member's comments, she never once mentioned what it would cost a Black and brown family. She didn't talk about that. All she's talking about is the fact that the entire Green New Deal agenda may, and I stress may, cut 1/2 of a degree in the world's climate by 2050. And I stress may, because there was a representative from the Department of Energy in the Senate a few weeks ago, and he could not even answer the question that came from Senator Kennedy. He didn't know. He had no answer. He was like you, Mr. Delaski, just going back through this is not a movie or whatever the heck you're saying over there. This stuff is dumb. Listen, what we should be doing is a couple of things. Number one, making sure that there is actually cheap and readily affordable energy for our businesses and for our people, period, full stop. Two, this notion of chasing down the Green New Deal fantasy, which, by the way, half the globe is ignoring. China is not doing this. Russia is not doing this. And the Europeans are backpedaling from this quickly because even the Europeans now understand that they can't live their Green New Deal dreams on gas that they were getting from Russia. They don't get to do that anymore. So now Europe is backpedaling. We need to get serious in the United States. And if we want to have an economy where everybody's got to be able to earn money in, and we want to have an energy grid that is sustainable, what we can't do are these crazy demands from the Department of Energy and from the EPA. Last thing I'll say is this. If we follow the president's dream and the other party's dream of electrifying every car and electrifying every stove, you know what we're gonna have? We're gonna have an electric grid with not enough energy to turn the lights on. Those are the facts. I yield back.
And Byron Donalds is actually correct. You are going to overload the system. There's a bill already enacted to change all cars to electric cars by 2030. Now you got this, that's a check mark box off. And now you have this gas stove thing they're trying to check box, and Cori Bush tried to associate asthma. This is one of the reasons why you should vote yes on this bill. They're trying to associate asthma with gas stoves and black people, black kids. Because you got to put kids in there, because if it's harmful for the kids, everybody's going to agree. Who doesn't love the kids? Now, this is just a study that I brought up. And remember, in her hearing, she said that all the natural gas stoves, or all the gas stoves in the U.S. emits the same amount of emission of 500,000 cars. But she did not mention how many cars do we have in the U.S. You guys just take a wild guess. I'll tell you guys later in the video. It says natural gas is popular fuel choice for home cooking. Nationally, over 1/3 of the household cooks with gas. In some states, the proportion is substantially higher. Over 60% of households in California cook with gas, for instance. People interact more directly with their stove than with other gas appliances, increasing potential exposure to any natural gas constituents and compounds formed during combustion. That's include formaldehyde, carbon monoxide, and nitric oxide. These are called greenhouse gases, and they're byproducts of methane. Okay, so once they combust in methane. Greenhouse gases, it depletes the ozone layer. Okay, so that's one of the things that they're talking about. I just want you guys to understand. Okay, that's the thing that they're talking about. This little picture right here, let me see if I could blow it up. This is what they're saying that, let me see. Okay, so you got methane leaking. That's with the CH4 and nitric oxide. This is unburned and leaking. So that's when you turn on the stove. I'm not familiar with this, per joule, but anyway. So this is just basically emitting into the atmosphere in your house. So you could use a hood or whatever. Sometimes there are carbon monoxide detector. I think all homes should have one. I think it's required if you live in an apartment. These are things that you can protect yourself, okay? And open venting from a window. Now, do I believe in global warming? Partly, since I did some of my engineering career in environmental. Yeah, I partly believe in global warming. Yeah, I think there is a corporate responsibility for corporations to make products safe, right? However, I do not believe whatsoever that gas stoves is detrimental to the human race. So back to my question. How many cars are on the road in the U.S.? There's 290.8 cars. I don't know where to get the 0.8 from, but 290 million cars in the U.S. And this was in September of 2022. And she said in the U.S., all the households that actually have a gas stove emits the same as 500,000 cars. So we could say cars emits 580 times more. But we didn't even compare apples to apples. There's 290 million cars in the US. A typical passenger vehicle emits about 4.6 metric tons of carbon dioxide. So you're attacking gas stoves and trying to make this retrofit from that. Then you wanted a retrofit gas cars, or just eliminate gas cars to make electric, make them all electric energy cars. But now you got a problem with the power grid. Where does the power come from? There's 3,400 fossil fuel fire plants in the U.S. How many windmill power plants? There's 780 turbines in the United States. But the only thing about wind energy and solar energy, you can't store it. So it says the average turbine would produce 843 kilowatts per month, enough for less than 940 average U.S. homes. So you have this power grid that you got to attack. Most of your energy is dependent on fossil fuel. So you're still getting greenhouse gas emissions, even though they do have, the EPA is regulated on them. So you got greenhouse gas emissions, you got other emissions, pollutants in the air that affects particulate matters that affect people. And then now you want to get rid of gas stoves and electrical vehicles. But then you want to get rid of jobs too. So where's the power going to come from? And where are the people going to have, when are the people going to have jobs? Because you just killed like 3 industries: the car industry, the electrical industry, appliance industry. You just killed all those. So you guys, thank you for tuning in. Let me know what you think. I am sending all my good to you. I will talk to you soon.